The internet is cracked, the show that asks the question, can we coexist with our creation? I am Caroline Risberg,
And I am Seth Camillo.
and we are the Internet is Cracked by Addicts for Addicts.
And today we have a super special guest. This is my cousin, Nick Camillo, who is, in my opinion, one of the best musicians I've ever seen play. He's amazing. And he is also a programmer. And I can't judge programming, but I assume he's very good at that as well. But he was good enough to allow me to use two of his songs in my documentary, Gridiron Heroes, and they're absolutely beautiful, and people comment on them all the time. I want to remind you of we were talking, and I said to you, to get things rolling, I said to you, we were on the phone, I was asking you if you would do this with us, and you said yes. And I said, I'll never use ChatGPT because it'll take my humanity away. And you laughed and you said ChatGPT is humanity. And
Yeah.
I thought that was a really for one moment you stunned me. And I was like, oh, that's pretty good. That was like a jab to my face. I was like, wait, that kind of makes some sense. Can you explain that? Can you elaborate on that? Because that was a great quote.
Yeah.
ChatGPT and most of these large language models and now these multimodal models, they're made by training on this vast corpus of information, and it's all information about humanity and about human language and about the human experience, basically. And so while ChatGPT and these models in general feel kind of alien in some ways and feel like robots, ultimately they are created from all of the stuff that makes us human, all of the shared history and culture and experience and language that humanity has created or evolved, however you want to look at it, over the history of our entire species. And so, yeah, that basically sums up how I feel about that. It's ChatGPT is certainly this like strange, kind of hard to wrap your head around thing, but it's made from us and everything that we've created it.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's actually a really good way of explaining it, I think.
You seem completely unafraid of when I talk to you. You seem actually the opposite of afraid. You seemed excited for all that was coming, all that you knew was coming, and all that you don't know that's coming. You seem to be,
Yeah, I'm stoked. You know, just like, why is that? I mean, right now, if you're paying attention to, if you're just a lay person, you're paying attention to technology the way that people normally pay attention to technology. It seems like a lot of cool new stuff is coming out, and it's if you're really paying attention, you're probably mind blown by some of this stuff that's coming out, including ChatGPT. And I could talk about how I was mind blown by ChatGPT, but um, the cool thing about all this new technology is that it's kind of blurring the line between language and technology. So, like, for the longest time, even up till even now, like, if you want to interact with a computer, you need to learn the user interface. You need to learn all these weird nuances about the operating system, like when to restart your computer, like little things like that. You know what I mean? Um, how to get into the settings sometimes to fix something, how to Google a problem that you're having, all these like little subtle things that you're dealing with just using technology every day. And like sometimes I'm surprised when I see like an older person using a computer at their like deep fundamental misunderstanding about like what's going on there, or
Right.
um like how confused they can get about something that to somebody who's used to it is so simple. And what's happening with AI is that we're kind of moving to a place where like we don't even need a user interface for a vast amount of new and existing tasks, because these computers are able to understand human language. And so, and they're also not necessarily yet, but like we're moving towards a place very quickly where computers understand our user interfaces. They understand iOS, they understand macOS, they understand Windows, they understand how to use a web browser. It seems, if you're just paying attention to like what's happening now, like it seems just like there's still a marginal improvement to technology happening. But if you take a step back and you look at what's actually happening, and I'm not like the first person to say this, obviously, people have been like people like Ray Kurzweil have been like saying stuff like this for decades. But we really are on an exponential curve in terms of um, compute, and not just compute, but intelligence and capability. And right now, like, ChatGPT came out and it's enabled lots of people to do all sorts of things that they couldn't do before. It's enabling an entirely new way of interacting with computers, but it isn't yet making a tremendously dramatic impact on society the way that it seems like it's going to in the next few years. So like, even if you forget about ChatGPT and you just think about like what Google DeepMind has done with
Mhm.
something like AlphaGo, um, where they created a neural network that, given the simple rules about how to play the game Go, spent the equivalent of tens of thousands of years playing against itself in endless combinations of uh, like both random and learned strategies, and is now able to beat even the most talented Go players on the earth in very surprising ways that seem unintuitive to
Yeah, can I build on that? My dad is
that.
he's obsessed with chess, and he used to play a lot of chess. And now he says the top chess players study the computer for ways to play.
Mm.
So
Right.
their first, they're trying to play more like the computer. Their first, whatever, 20, however many moves they can remember are computer generated and are often moves that no human would have made before they interacted with the computer simulation.
All of these models, all of this new technology that is like groundbreaking. And like I said, it's groundbreaking, but it's not necessarily having this tremendous impact immediately. These models are the worst that they're ever going to be. They're the
Yeah.
first version.
Oh,
It's
right.
like the equivalent of like the first personal computers in the 70s. Like if you look at your cell phone in your pocket now compared to the computers that people were using in like the 70s and 80s, it's like you can't even really compare the two things, right? Um,
Right. No. That's
and so yeah, if you give it a couple of years, give it a decade, the things that these systems are going to be able to do compared to what the first ChatGPT could do are like, it's almost incomprehensible.
But yeah, in the future, let's say in a few years from now, where do you think it will be then? Because they already start going in that direction where more conscience and knowing and, you know,
Or do you believe it can never become sentient? I guess that would be my question to you.
I think that nobody even has a definition for sentience. Like that's like a really common thing that you'll read about, but like there's no definition of that's agreed upon about what consciousness is. There's no way for you to prove that you are conscious as a human being.
Well, I think Peter Thiel, he was giving a talk to some Stanford students. He said, all those movies where some aliens come, they're smarter than we are, and we don't know whether they have good or bad intentions, and we have to find all this stuff out. He said, well, that's what's happening. He says, only we're making it occur.
Yeah, I guess my point that I was trying to make is that I don't think it matters because, like, if you can't prove that you are sentient, if you can't prove that you are conscious, then how can you expect to try to prove whether an AI is conscious? And the reality is, like, at a certain point, you're not going to be able to tell the difference between one of these things and the real person. And
Yeah.
once it gets to that point, like, does it really matter?
Well, it does matter
Well,
for
yeah.
safety and what we are as a species. It does matter. Yeah, it does matter a lot, actually, Nick.
Yeah, it does.
I feel like you're playing both sides of the fence. What you're saying is, this is the most amazing invention of all time, but hey, don't worry about it. It's really not that big a deal. I mean, this is
I think that there's definitely things to worry about. I'm just saying that I think that these technologies that are coming out,
yeah.
the upsides vastly outweigh the
Okay.
downsides. It's a situation where, like, yeah, okay, this technology can be used for horrible things potentially, and
Yeah.
probably will. Most definitely will, right?
It does.
Um,
Yeah, I think
but
so.
but it's also going to be used for amazing things. This is like the most important technology that's ever been created, and it's going to enable the most important new advances to science and technology
Well,
that has ever existed.
what Eric Schmidt said, the former CEO of Google, was saying. He said, as much as you're hearing about this, he says it's actually underreported. He said, this is not the industrial revolution. This is the industrial revolution on steroids. This is
Right.
just something that's going to be, we have no clue how amazing it's going to be.
I think that even in the next like 10, 20 years, the world is going to be so much drastically different than it has been for like the longest time. You know,
Yeah.
the concept of work and money, I feel, are going to
Yeah.
drastically change. And it's really hard for most people to even think about because they're so used to existing in this paradigm. But I mean, it seems obvious to me that, okay, given assumption that no catastrophic things happen in the world, like a massive war or like another pandemic or something, we're gonna have robots walking around and doing things for us in the next couple of years alone.
Yeah.
Um, and these robots are gonna start with doing things that hopefully that nobody wants to do, but they're so cheap and they're so easy to maintain and they're so easy to train because you can train them entirely in physics simulation over the course of the equivalent of tens of thousands of hours or years of training.
I heard a funny story of a CEO of a robotics company walking. They had just the arms, and they were trying to teach it to pick up kids' toys and tennis balls. He walked in the first day. The arm was terrible, and he thought, "Oh my god, I can't believe we wasted this money on this." Walks in the second day, it can pick up the tennis ball, and he's like, "Ah, what a waste." Walks in the third day, it's picking up everything perfectly. He goes, "Wow, I'm a genius." Within 3 days of training, it became a completely functional arm.
I was just thinking what you were saying, like, okay, the robots in a few years, they would do jobs that probably a lot of people wouldn't want to do. Let's say cleaning lady. But what would happen with that cleaning lady, the human? What is she gonna do? Or he? What is actually gonna happen with, with the evolution? Can you say the ecosystem of us as humans when machines is gonna come and start doing all the jobs that we don't want to do? 'Cause, I mean, all of us can't be let's say doctors, if that's what everyone wants to be, or lawyers. But then probably AI is going to be much better in being a doctor and a researcher and all of. So what are what are we going to do? To sit under a palm tree? It's not fun after a while.
I think that there's a lot of things that we take for granted in terms of like how we frame our lives, how we frame our day-to-day lives, how we frame our goals and aspirations that
Mhm.
aren't going to make sense anymore in the future. Like it seems obvious to me, like if you assume just, okay, it's, let's not try to, let's skip the conversation for now about like the transition period. Right. But
Right.
it seemed, because that's the scary part. But like, if you think about this, like the long term of how this might play out, it seems obvious to me that if we're automating tons of labor, and not just labor, but like anything that can be done with hands, with robots,
Mhm.
and these robots are able to do anything that a person can do with their hands, and we're also doing the same thing with intelligence, like challenging jobs that take 10 years to master and certification, et cetera, like doctors and lawyers, et cetera. And at the same time, we're increasing our renewable energy sources. And it seemed plausible to me that the cost of producing all goods and services are going to trend towards the cost of electricity.
Yeah.
Right? Like if the intelligence that you're relying on is just running on compute, it's ultimately, after you've invested in the system for running the compute, for running the inference or whatever, it's just a matter of paying for the electricity to run that inference. And
Mhm.
if you've got robots doing all of the manual labor, then all of the costs that are associated with paying these manual laborers and these intelligence workers, whatever you want to call them, like even software engineers, like any job that you can do on a computer, right?
Mhm.
All of these jobs, all of these products that we pay for, all these services that we pay for, they cost what they cost because there's people behind them who have insurance and benefit, like all sorts of benefits in their salary and stuff like that. And so if gradually over time, all of these jobs that used to be high paying or used to be require all sorts of like school and stuff like that are suddenly being done by robots and like and AI models on your computer, the cost of producing these goods and services is ultimately going to trend towards the cost of electricity. And if the cost of electricity,
Right.
But in
if the cost of electricity is also trending towards zero because we're amassing that like all these different ways of getting renewable energy, then that means that the cost of producing any good and service that we can conceive of is going to approach zero.
and that's all wonderful, but
Mm.
but you're taking everybody's, and you're not taking their jobs, you're taking their hopes and dreams and everything away from them. What's the point of life at that point?
Right.
I think that's like and this is what I was talking about. I think that it's like a very antiquated view on life and like happiness. And
I know I have antiquated views.
well, no, I'm just saying that like I'm saying that like I mean, personally, if you told me that tomorrow I would no longer have to work, but I could maintain my current lifestyle and I could just do whatever I wanted every single day, I would not be upset at all.
Yeah, but you couldn't
I
play the
would be
guitar because a robot would be a much better guitarist than you are. So what would you do?
dude, there's already I am not I know you like you talked me up in the beginning of this, but I'm not even remotely a virtuoso or like even remotely in like the top 5% of guitar players on this planet.
Well, what is the point of trying to achieve when you can never achieve? You can never be the best. Isn't that what the point is? Every time
I don't do anything because I want to be the best. That's not even remotely a motivating factor for me and across like anything that I do. Like because it's an impossible dream. Like there's only one the word best implies there's no one better than you.
But I think the attempt
means
to
that-
be the best is what drives a lot of people, including myself.
Well, I mean, I think that is a recipe, no matter if you're talking about like the 80s or you're talking about the 2080s, like 1980s or 2080s. I think that trying to be the best at something is a recipe for disaster because you're most likely going to fail because there are literally 8 billion people on this planet. And that means you have to be better at that thing than 8 billion other people. And in all likelihood, you won't be because there's always somebody who's better at everything. Like, even if you just forget about like,
Well, obviously, what you're saying is statistically true, and obviously, uh, I'm not denying. I mean, it's a mathematical fact what you're saying, but the desire, every film student that I've ever taught thinks that they're at it because they believe what they have in their heart is going to be okay, maybe not the best, but it's gonna be incredibly moving, is gonna do something really damn dramatic and be something really, really incredible. And when you have this
that's different. That's different though. It's a completely different thing that what you just said. Like trying to be the best at something versus feeling like you are a valid artist who like has something to give to the world. Those are very different things, right? So I totally align in that second description that you just said. Like I make my Shantae figures, I play music. Oh, there's a massive difference because I don't care if somebody thinks that I'm the best. I don't care if I think I'm the best because I know that I'm not the best. And I know that I will never be the best. Even if I dedicated the rest of my life to studying guitar every day, all day long, I will never be the best guitar player on this planet. It's just the reality. And
You're
Yeah.
playing because you love to play, right? I mean, it's
because I love to play,
my
because-
understanding. Yeah, the passion
and because I
for
feel
it.
like, I do have something in me that is creative that um I think is good enough to share with the world that other people might like to.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that there aren't other people who do it better than me. There's plenty of bands that I think are better than my band.
I'm not gonna type in a prompt. I'm not gonna type in a prompt and make a movie. I'll tell you that right now. Because it's not fun making. It's not. It's you know what it is. It's like whispering into Martin Scorsese's ear. You know what I'd really like to see is a good gangster movie. Can you do that? It's you're not making it.
Yeah. Well,
What I was thinking is actually the drive, the human drive. Instead for I don't want to be. It's not that I'm going to be the biggest, or the fastest or whatever, but it's a drive that we have inside of us as a kid, or as whatever. You have that drive, you have that vision, and I think kind of what we talking or what Seth is also saying, I think, is that drive maybe disappear because there
exactly.
there is you're not going to be the new prince,
Exactly.
or you're not going to be because it's kind of disappeared and the kind of a machine took it because they are so much better.
I'm not even gonna be the new Seth.
Right. And that'd be tragic. But I just I'm just thinking more of the human basic needs. I think that's where eventually, I mean, maybe that is great. We can sit under a palm tree all day and I can play my guitar or I can dance because I was many years a professional dancer. That was my, the drive I had, the training I did, everything I did to do it. Not that I wanted to be the best, but I did want to be the best. You want to do. But I think basically what I'm saying, for the human needs to drive, I'm scared for, are we going to get sad? Are we going to get depressed? Because to be honest, I mean, I like to work. I like to do things, whatever it is. And just to go on, or let's say I'm going to travel. I kind of like that I had that, oh, I got to save up enough money so I can go around the world 5 times. You're putting goals in your life and you do things. But then if I could do every day, I don't have to go in and do the boring stuff. I don't have to. I would just sit under a palm tree all day and drinking margarita, I think I will maybe lose my purpose.
One thing he did say to me on the phone, which was, I think maybe is the ultimate ender, at least of this piece of conversation, is that it's happening whether you like it or not.
I wouldn't say that I am a filmmaker, but I have done a lot of like video production. I've never made a movie, but I've made a bunch of music videos and like little short form video.
They're good.
And I do enjoy doing the whole video aspect, like using the camera, like manually editing, doing all of the process of producing that stuff.
No.
But but I am stoked to have a technology like Sora because it means that these ideas that I have are suddenly accessible to me in a way that they weren't before. You know, like there's so many ideas for music videos that I've had, for example, that I just never did because I knew that it was going to be expensive or it was going to take a lot of time and a lot of coordination. And the idea that I could just go and take some time to be a good storyteller and come up with a nice prompt to like produce something.
But I will say, for instance, I said to my dad is still teaching, and he's still proving theorems. And he started asking me a bunch of stuff about, like, it knew his theorems. He's like, ask it this, ask it that.
Yeah.
And, like, he was really pissed off that it knew I told you this already, I think, that it just sounds cool to say the product of two row reduced matrices is row reduced. My dad proved that it's not a theorem that within his world would give him lots of cachet because it's a relatively simple theorem, but it pisses him off that it's not in every linear algebra textbook. So he said, ask that thing what the product of two row reduced matrices is. And it said they're row reduced. And he was like, he's like, I don't like that. And he said, and then he got up and he was pretty pissed off. I don't know. And he was like, well, it'll never, ever really be able to do real math. And he walked upstairs. And the truth of the matter is, you and I both know it's going to do real math.
Yeah.
It's going to do all the theorems that my dad has toiled with for all of his life. And that is not easy to be human and have that be the truth, I think.
Math is the kind of thing that is like, at least the kind of math that your dad does is something that only a very small number of people can actually do. Compared to like playing guitar or like learning how to paint. You know what I mean? So I think for somebody like that, like that might be a blow. But at the same time, like these tools, like they're gonna turn into really helpful assistants. So somebody like your dad, somebody like your dad who's like a young aspiring mathematician is gonna come up with an idea, and they're gonna be able to talk to this super intelligent other mathematician that it can instantly validate or like spitball these ideas with them, and it's going to help them.
We're going to know a lot more about the universe fairly quickly. I mean, it's going to be able to do a lot of subatomic physics stuff, and I mean, we're going to know a lot of things. I mean, it's I think.
Yeah, I think so too. But I think what we were saying earlier, the transition, I think the transition is going to be very, very hard for us. Even, the most you were saying earlier about older people, how they struggle with computers, and something that is so scary to them. I know with my mom, I mean, she's on Facebook and she's, Googling but she's terrified of the computer. She almost get panic and say, "Oh my God, what has gonna happen?" And I said, "You're not gonna destroy it just by you doing this or doing that." No, no, I don't know. She's very scared. I mean, she's 80 plus. So I mean, that whole generation, our generation, I mean, you're younger than me. I mean, yeah, I'm good in all of this, but now I think the transition is going to be really hard. But for kids that are growing up now, there's nothing to be afraid for them anymore because this is like,
Well,
this is what's going.
what's
And
funny
I don't know.
What's funny about what you're saying is like that's a different transition that I was talking about. Uh, I think that what you're talking about, you actually might have, you might be surprised because what I was trying to say earlier about how this technology is becoming like more accessible. I think
Mhm.
that all these old people who struggle with computers, with this new era of computing, with these models, you're not going to need to learn a user interface anymore. You're not going to need to learn how to use the computer anymore. You're going to be able to just talk to the computer the way you talk to a person. And it's going to feel like you're talking to a real person. And it's going to be able to ask you questions to get more information about whatever it's trying to help you with. And so it's going to be as simple as just pushing a button on the side of your phone and saying something and having a conversation. And so I think this is actually going to be the most democratizing moment for technological adoption in like the history of technology because anybody who knows how to speak, even if you can only use sign language, is going to be able to use this technology without having to learn anything.
I think my two reservations are the danger, and I think a lot of people are worried about that. Um, and I'm looking right here. I've got these are all my lyrics. I got divorced and I wrote a bunch of music. And you talk, is it the best or is it the worst? Is it? But to me, it's a meaningful experience. And I'll tell you this, maybe the words aren't quite available to us at this moment, or maybe we can't agree on the words, but knowing that there is a piece of software that I could just type in the prompt, "I'm sad because I'm no longer married," and it'll make a better song than what I wrote, would I would just not I would not pursue it any longer.
I don't wanna go in Starbucks and it's machine making my coffee, but that is already start happening. I just have to get used to this, but it's happening, a lot of things is happening really, really fast. And we had talked about that. Wait, I just wanna say this, like, for example, when the car in the very beginning, whenever that started, that took, I mean, almost, what is it? It is 100 years, with generation until where we are now with basically self-driven cars. This with AI and all this technology, it's going, as for common people like me, it's going so quick. It's going really quick.
I work for a company. I can't really talk too deeply about it, but we're using neural networks to take MRI and CAT scan data and turn that into 3D models that can be used to plan and simulate surgery before surgery is done, just as a way to try to like improve surgery. Um, and like, yeah, there's just that's why I'm optimistic is because
Yeah.
there's so many opportunities to make so many things better for like all over the world. And like, there's always going to be bad actors no matter what.
Mhm.
But like, if this technology is ubiquitous and there's lots of good actors, there are more good actors than bad actors. The potential, so something that I can't remember if it was Sam Altman or somebody else said something the other day that like really stuck with me. That they were trying to like imagine like what this was going to be like 5-10 years from now. These like new technologies,
Yeah.
and right now, ChatGPT again, it's just a chat interface, right? Like you can talk to it, but it can't actually do anything. Once ChatGPT or the like is able to actually act as an agent on your behalf and go out into the world, whether it's just on the internet or whether it's through robotics, whatever, and actually do things that you tell it to do, we're going to be entering into a world in which the thing that he said was that a single person can accomplish what used to require an organized organization of 1,000 people.
Yeah, he said the first $1 billion valuation single person company is coming. That a single person is gonna have
But
a company.
Yeah.
think about
Yeah.
price. It means that like what used to take 1,000 organized people with a good CEO is potentially going to be possible to be accomplished by a single individual. And now, if you extrapolate that, on like all of the humans that are suddenly going to have access to this technology, the 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 impact, the potential societal impact, positive societal impact, is almost unfathomable. Man, like the fact that kids are going to grow up with one of the smartest people in the entire world in their pocket that they can ask any questions. You remember like growing up and being like, "Hey, Dad, why is the sky blue?" And then he gives you the answer, and then you're like, "Yeah, but why?" And then he gives you the answer, and then you're like, "Yeah, but why?" And he's like, "Dude, I don't know." But like ChatGPT or whatever the hell people are going to use is going to know. And like I think it's gonna enable like we're talking about people being afraid of like it ruining all these experiences, but I think it's going to enable all these new types of experiences where like people's creativity is unleashed. People's creativity and like their intellect and their interest and curiosity are going to be unblocked in a way that has never even remotely been possible before. I would be so stoked if I didn't have to work anymore and I could just wake up and work on my music or work on some electronics project or like go for a hike or basically just decide what I want to do every day. Like I don't get bored. I'm not a person that gets bored because I have a lot of interest and I'm fascinated by the world. And it doesn't bother me at all if like something that I want to do can be done better by somebody else. What matters to me is if I'm enjoying myself.
Right. I have to say, I really love your view on this. I mean, it's very positive, and it's kind of nice to hear it like this, that we're not all gonna die. It actually is gonna be a much better life for all of us. I mean, I do. I really like your point of view. I have to say, it's very refreshing in one way, and I hope you're right. And I I really hope you're right, because that would, I mean,
So do I.
we could have a wonderful life. And thank you for talking to us. As I say, I'm gonna say it again. I really love your perspective on this. It's refreshing.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Nick. Appreciate your time. I know you're
Yes.
so it was fun chatting.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching or listening to The Internet is Crack. Tune in next week when we talk to Professor Leighton Pierce, my friend and mentor. It's going to be a great conversation. You can watch us or listen to us on YouTube or Spotify or many other outlets. And don't forget to follow us on social media. See you next Monday.